Welcome to Dining with Dan and Becky at Glen Ferris. And tonight, as my guest, is Gregory Ingram and his wife Susie from Montgomery. He's the mayor of Montgomery, and we're pleased to have them here with us tonight. And hopefully, Becky has made another great meal for us. And Greg, tell us some about yourself.
Well, Dan, I'm originally from down in Roane County, down in Spencer, West Virginia.
Okay.
Came to Montgomery about 25 years ago, and I just absolutely fell in love with the Upper Kanawha Valley, and still here today and enjoying every minute of it.
Great. Susie, did you grow up here as well?
I did, yes. My hometown is Montgomery, so yes, I'm from Montgomery, and so I'm still here and enjoying that we're back in town and Greg being mayor. So we've been there now about 25 years. I've been back home. So
Well, that's good. Well, let's go in the kitchen and see what Becky has cooked up for us, and I'm sure she's done something great. So let's go in and check what she's done.
Hello, welcome to Dining with Dan and Becky, and we are here at the house this evening instead of the inn. Glad you could make it to watch us. Tonight, Dan's menu is not as unusual as some of the ones we've had, but it's going to consist of a Waldorf salad, which is a fairly old recipe, a pork top loin roast, scallop potatoes, which is everyone's favorite, stuffed zucchini, which is a recipe that's probably 40 to 50 years old, and a country favorite of sweet potato pie. I do not know if you've ever had one, but we're going to be doing it this evening, and we'll see how it goes. All right, let's go ahead and get started on that pork roast, because we have got to get it out of the oven when it's time to serve dinner. Now, I have a 5-pound pork loin roast that I have marinated all day long. All right, now for this recipe, we need approximately a 5-pound top loin pork roast, and that's from the top of the pig. A 3/4 cup of dry red wine, a 1/3 cup of packed brown sugar, a 1/4 cup of vinegar, 1/4 cup of ketchup, 1/4 cup of water, 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, 1 clove garlic that has been minced, a teaspoon of ground ginger, a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, and 2 teaspoons of cornstarch. Now that makes your marinade, and then later we're going to stir fry bella mushrooms and onion slices to make a garnish for this. So I have had this marinating in the refrigerator all day. It's a goodly piece of meat, and we need to drain it and put it in our roasting rack, and then put it in the oven at 375 degrees. All right, now what I am going to do is open this Ziploc baggie in one corner only, and let's hope I don't make a mess. And I'm going to drain about a cup and a half of the marinade out in case I want to make a sauce or a gravy. Oh, that's about a cup. Okay. Now I'm going to take this to the sink and get the meat out of the bag. And you know I'm taking it to the sink because of the mess I'm going to make. Put it on our roaster, and then we're going to pop it in the oven. And then in a couple hours, we'll check the temperature. FDA says that American pork is perfectly safe to be cooked to 140 degrees. And that there all of the animals are healthy, the facility is clean, and if they go in and inspect and find any signs of problems, they're shut down till it's taken care of. But I still cook mine to 160, 170, because I just can't go there. Now what I'm going to do is remove the meat. I have the bag being angled towards the sink, and hopefully I will not have such a mess on my hands, but we all know that if it's one thing I'm good at, it is making a mess. Now, whew, that is a potent smell. All right, so here we are. Now, if your loin has got chunks and pieces and folds, feel free to go ahead and tie it with twine every 3 inches or so to hold it together. And then when you finish baking it off, it will be in that shape. But this is in pretty good shape. So let's get this in the oven, and then we will go ahead and start working on one of our other items. Now my bottom oven is a roasting oven, and the top is a convection oven. So when I have got a large piece of meat in a roaster of some sort or the other, I always put it in the roasting oven, and then that clears up the top for any sides that I may want to bake. So let me get my hands washed, and we'll go on and start the pie. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Let's go ahead and get started on our sweet potato pie. Now this is an old-timey recipe. I found it in a cookbook that was out of the 40s. I've also found it in other cookbooks, but you very seldom see it in a modern cookbook. All right, now what you want is to have 1 baked pie crust, 2 cups of cooked sweet potatoes that are mashed, a 1/2 cup of brown sugar, 1/2 cup of white sugar, 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. Then your spices would be a pinch of cloves, a pinch of allspice, a pinch of nutmeg, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 3 eggs slightly beaten, a teaspoon of vanilla, and 1.5 cups of evaporated milk. And don't dilute this. The evaporated milk has been boiled and the liquid's evaporated off of it, and it's traditionally twice as dense, twice as strong as a traditional milk. And to change it back to a milk product that you could use to substitute for a recipe that calls for whole milk, all you do is measure your evaporated milk, and then you use equal amounts of water. So if you're using 2 cups of whole milk, you put in 1 cup of evaporated, 1 cup of water, and it's reconstituted whole milk. All right, let's go ahead and get started on this. Let me get this out of the way. Sweet potatoes. If you do these with fresh sweet potatoes, scrub them real good, cover them with about 1 inch to 2 inches of water, and boil them until they're fairly soft. Then drain them, cover them with cold water, because you don't want to burn your hands. And at that point, you can work with them. You're going to peel them, cube them, put them in a wide bottom bowl, and then you can either mash them with a mixer, but I just used a hand potato masher because this wasn't worth the effort it would take to clean the mixer. So you've got 2 cups of your sweet potatoes, and we are going to add granulated sugar, packed brown sugar, there, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. This is your pinch of your 3 spices and your salt. It's a pinch of nutmeg, allspice, and cloves. And that's what I use in my pumpkin pie as well. All right, now, I've got let me do this first. 3 eggs that I whipped slightly with a whisk. And I have got a 1.5 cups of normal evaporated milk, full strength, that hasn't been mixed with water to reconstitute it. So, now all I have to do is stir this together. And it's not difficult to do since you've already mashed your potatoes. I love these kind of pies because they're so spicy. Until I married Danny, I made my pumpkin pies with just pure pumpkin, and I'd never heard of a sweet potato pie. Well, his mother used butternut squash. She didn't use pumpkin because the butternut squashes take less room in the garden to grow. I'm going to have to get a whisk. And they're just easier to work with. And 1 butternut squash will make a couple pumpkin pies. I took mine and Dan peeled them for me. I broiled them and I mashed them and then I froze them. You need 1 2/3 cup of pumpkin puree to make a can. And then I used my normal recipe for it. I'd like to add some walnuts and raisins to this, but you know, just in case they've had sweet potato pie before, I sure don't want to mess it up. So we'll stick to our original recipe. So here we are. Now this is 1 baked pie crust. All right. We're going to fill it up, and we're going to have a little bit extra. Well, I can take this and refrigerate it and make Dan a sweet potato custard out of it. So let me get that out of the way. Now, since this crust was pre-cooked, if you're not careful with it, it is going to turn really brown in that oven. It has to cook for 40 minutes. So what we're going to do is cover the edges with strips of aluminum foil, and that will act as a nice little insulator for the heat. So just take your foil and pull off maybe 1 inch, not too much, and we're going to wrap it around our crust. Now, a couple years ago, my daughter Andrea wanted a pie edger like this made out of latex, so that all she had to do was slip it up on the pie and she wouldn't have to go through this. And I just hate to have one thing in my kitchen that it only has one use for. You know, I need to be able to use it in 2 different ways. At least that's my theory. And the exception is a mixing bowl. You just can't have enough mixing bowls. All right, we're going to cover this. This is going to go also in a 375-degree oven for 45 minutes. And towards the end, we will take the foil off. That wasn't well done. Maybe Andrea's method is better than mine anyway. I don't know. And I'm thinking about putting cinnamon in with the whipped cream this time. I can't make up my mind. Okay. All right. So we've got the edges protected so they will not burn. I normally do not put mine in a baked shell. I leave it raw to where it will bake Okay, let's get this in. And there we go. And since this isn't preheated, I'm going to set it for 45 minutes and we'll just check it at 40. All right. Okay, let me clean up my mess a little bit and then we'll get started on our next dish. All right, welcome back. Let's go ahead and get started on our Waldorf salad. I had made this in the 60s at our house, and I made it several times. And when I was working on the Glen Ferris Inn cookbook, A Taste of the Inn, I wanted to put a Waldorf salad in it because it's a little bit versatile. You can add chicken to it and make it a chicken Waldorf salad and make finger sandwiches out of it, or you can just leave it as it is. You can change the fruit out and put different fruits in it. And it's a pleasant change of pace from a vegetable or a lettuce-based salad. I could not find the recipe, and finally I went home and Granny said, Natalie Phillips, my mama, well, I still have most of your cookbooks. And lo and behold, if she didn't have the cookbook that had the Waldorf salad in it, and I'm sure that's in other cookbooks, but, you know, at the time I didn't go out and buy cookbooks just to buy them. All right, now, for your Waldorf salad, you're going to need 3 Granny Smith apples that are chopped in small pieces. Now, what you want to do, if you prepare this ahead of time, is to put it in water with lemon juice. Now, or you could put fruit pectin in it. Fruit fresh, I'm sorry. And what it will do is keep them from discolored. Now, you can peel these or leave the peeling on. I wanted the peeling on so the salad would be just a little bit more attractive. Whoops, there's one that turned dark on me. All right, let's get these out and let them drain a minute. And there's another one. This is really a delightful salad. It's made with walnuts, various fruits. All right, so you've got your 3 Granny Smith apples, and I'm letting them sit here and drain. You need a tablespoon of sugar, half a teaspoon of lemon juice, a pinch of salt, a cup of sliced celery, 1/2 cup of walnut pieces, a 1/4 cup of mayonnaise, and a 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream. All right, let's get started on this. All right, a much larger bowl so that we can combine these and mix them effectively. All right, now you've got your Granny Smith apples, so let's put those in. These are not going to be cooked, and even though I just washed my hands, I feel better in this flu season with gloving up if I'm going to be touching this. All right, now try not to let any of the water that has dripped off get in your bowl because there's quite a bit here. All right, that's 2 cups of chopped Granny Smith apples. And again, I left that peeling on so that it would add to the color. All right, then you have got 1 cup of sliced celery, and I generally cut that into small pieces. And then you have 1/2 cup of walnut pieces. All right, now I also decided to add red grapes to this. I generally add red or green, and since I did the Granny Smiths, I decided to add red. And no, it's not in the recipe, but if I can't change a recipe the way I want it at my house, you know, what good is it, right? So let's get this tossed. Now all I have to do is make the dressing. Now look how colorful that is. Isn't that a nice salad? Okay, so here we go. The first thing that we are going to want to do is to do our cream. Let me get a medium-sized bowl. Now all you want is half a cup of heavy cream. Make sure you shake it first. When you buy the smallest container, it is 1 cup. Okay. Now, I have had Waldorf salads before where they were not extremely careful with their heavy cream and didn't drain their apples properly. And literally when they picked it up with a slotted spoon to make a sandwich off of it, the cream just rolled off of it in a stream. Well, I don't want that. So I don't even want to take a chance on that. So what I am going to do is use a hand whisk. It's a pogo whisk to beat this just until it's a little bit thicker. Then I will add in the lemon juice, the sugar, and the mayonnaise. And everyone says mayonnaise, yuck, in a fruit salad, but it really isn't bad. It adds to it. Now, you do not want to beat this until stiff peaks or even soft peaks form. All you want to do is thicken it up enough so that the liquid does not run off. That was one of the most repulsive things I've ever seen. And then to make a sandwich with it is just beyond the pale. All right, we're just going to do this a little bit more, and then we'll have it thick enough. You do not want whipped cream with this. Truly, you don't. Okay, so there we are. Let me get this in the sink. And we're going to add our remaining ingredients. The sugar, the lemon juice, and the mayonnaise. Now, your heavy cream at this point is not runny, or at least as runny as it was, and it has thickened up enough to where I think that we will be able to have it dressing our fruit without too much runoff. All right, there we are, beautiful and creamy. All right. Now we're going to toss this together, then we are going to cover it and put it in the refrigerator, because you just do not want a salad that is at room temperature unless it's supposed to be at room temperature. All right, look how nice that looks. Now the test of it as to whether or not I got the whipping cream thick enough will be our slotted spoon test. So let's try that out. If this runs from it like a hole in a water bucket, I'm going to be very upset. Now look at that. Now that is what a Waldorf salad should look like, guys. Okay, let me get it covered and in the refrigerator, and then we'll take a minute and clean up our mess, and then we'll go on with another side. started on those scallop potatoes because they have to cook a while. You need 6 baking potatoes that are peeled and sliced thinly, salt and pepper to taste, 1 medium onion also sliced, 6 slices of white American cheese, and I will not use yellow in this, a 1/3 cup of butter or margarine, a 1/2 cup of milk, and 1/2 cup of half and half. So let's go ahead and look at this. I have peeled the potatoes and I have them soaking in water. And I do that so they do not discolor. So the first thing I want to do is strain the potatoes, and then I am going to parboil them while I fix the rest of the dish. I parboil them because quite a few years ago I had visitors from Argentina, and they came up to visit my daughter. She had met their son as an exchange student overseas. And I fixed this beautiful, beautiful dish of potatoes au gratin. I had it in that container, and it was rounded up over the top, tinted, and just covered in beautiful cheddar cheese. And they stood and clapped and went ooh and ah. And when I served the darn thing, those potatoes were not done. So now I always parboil them first. So let's get this drained, and I have boiling water on the stove. Okay. Now, what would be the best way of doing this? That's a lot of potatoes. But anytime I fix a potato dish, I try to estimate it as 1 potato per person, and if they're small potatoes, I do 2. And if I want leftovers for my daughter Andrea to take home, then I fix twice as many potatoes as people, because it's awful nice to have leftovers the next day. All right, now, my onions. If you cover these with water and leave them sitting, they're going to leach out any vitamins and minerals that may be in it. But you don't want them to go soft and dehydrated. So when you put them in a Ziploc baggie or your bowl, cover them with a damp paper towel, and that will keep them, one, from turning colors. Potatoes and apples are super at turning colors, and it'll keep them moist. So what I want to do, first of all, is to brown the onions, or to cook them until they are translucent. And, whoops, my skillet. So I'm going to put a 1/3 cup of butter in and let it melt. And once that does, I am going to add my onions. Now this milk is the whole milk and the half and half combined. I have got salt and pepper to taste. And then your 6 slices of white American cheese. And the only reason I put that in the recipe was to make it just a little bit richer and creamier. This does not have cheese on the top. All right, let's see what our potatoes are doing. Okay. When you parboil them for 5 minutes, it's like cooking them for 10 minutes in the oven, and it cuts your prep time down and your baking time down considerably. So here we go. Almost. All right, I'm going to go ahead and add the salt and pepper. Now the rule of thumb is how much salt you use half that much pepper. This will be next to last. This is next. So There's no reason to add it until the skillet gets hot. Okay, there we go. So let's add our onion strips, and we're going to cook them until they are just beginning to change color. We don't want them to become all the way translucent, and we certainly don't want them to brown, because we want the onion flavor to bake into the potatoes and the milk and cheese sauce. So again, anything you can do to cut your cooking time is really a plus. All right, we're just going to leave that for a minute. Stir our potatoes. The potatoes have already turned colors, and that is good. So why don't we take a little bit of a break while the onions cook? No more than 5 minutes, no maximum of 10, and then we will be back and we'll get this taken care of and do our very last dish, and then go visit Dan and his guests. I will be right back. All right, welcome back. While we were gone, I went ahead and drained the potatoes because I didn't want to mash them tonight. And as you can see, our onions are beginning to wilt very nicely. So let's go ahead and make these, get them in our casserole dish, and get them in the oven so that they can bake. So the first thing, or the next thing you want to do, is add your half and half and your whole milk. Now you want to heat this until it starts bubbling. When it does that, then you can add your cheese. Our milk is beginning to simmer, so all we have to do now is add the cheese. Now when I unwrap the cheese, I put them so that the corners were at right angles to each other so I can pick it up easier. So let's see if that helps any. No, it does not. So let me get a knife and we'll cut it into strips, and we will dissolve it in our milk, and then all we have to do is add the potatoes, put it in the oven, and we are ready to go. Now, you want to wait till your cheese melts. We can go ahead and lower the temperature of this some. Alright, so let's let this simmer a little bit and the cheese melt. And I have one onion that turned brown on me. Oh well, didn't stir it enough. Now when you're draining your potatoes, you do not want them to have any moisture in it at all. So what I do, I drain it in a colander, and then I put it back on the pot to let the residual water slowly ease out. So that works well. And the cheese is beginning to melt. So here we are. Turn off the heat, and let me get something to put that on. Okay. Now that is what your creamy sauce looks like. And this is all that it is to scallop potatoes. So we have our half and half in milk. We have our white American cheese, and you don't want it discolored with the yellow, our onions, our butter, our salt and pepper. It is spiced absolutely letter perfect. So we have been draining our potatoes. They have been parboiled for at least 5 minutes. So now all we have to do is combine them. Then we're going to put them in our casserole dish and put them in the oven. All right, here we go. I started mixing my casseroles like this, if they have a sauce in it, when I developed the recipe for the broccoli casserole. And I just liked having everything coated evenly, and this is just what I do. So, here we go. This casserole dish has been sprayed with a vegetable spray. Okay, all we have to do is put our lid, which is tight-fitting and oven-proof, on the casserole dish. I do not have to cover it with foil, and I'm going to put it in the oven, and I'm going to bake it for about half an hour, and then it should be ready to go. We'll take it out, stir it up, and see what it's like then. So our pie has 3 more minutes, so this will have 27 minutes added to it. So, oh, that is not going to work for me. Okay, I've got the rack too high. All right, there we are. So let me clean up my mess, get the things out for the stuffed zucchini, and then we will go from there. Okay, welcome back. Our timer is going off for the upper oven, which is the convection oven, and that's the one I have the pie in. And so the pie is ready. All right, there's no wiggle in it. It's set up firm. Look at that. Isn't that a beautiful pie? A nice dollop of whipped cream on that, and we are set to go. All right, let me set the timer for the potatoes now. Zeros. Okay. So we're going to let this cool a little bit, and I think that when I do the whipped cream, I may put a little bit of cinnamon in it. All right, welcome back. It is time for us to do our last side and get it in the oven, and it only takes about 20 minutes for this to bake once you have it made. And it isn't too time consuming, but you know, it's just like everything else. Everything worthwhile takes time. All right, now I cut the recipe in half. All right, I have 2 zucchini, and what I'm going to do is slice it in half lengthwise. Now we are going to stuff this, and let's do both of them. Now, if you have people amongst you who are really zucchini enthusiasts, you could just cut off the top and scoop everything out, but just in case. All right, now, the next thing I want to do is I guess I'm going to have to cut this. You have to parboil your zucchini first, and needless to say, I did not do that. I did what most modern cooks would who know the secret. I washed it. I wrapped it in wet paper towels, and I put it in the microwave for 3 minutes. And that's just how it is. You can do the same thing with corn on the cob. You can take your raw corn, okay, there's one, and clean it and put it in the microwave wrapped in a wet paper towel, and each ear of corn takes 2 minutes. My daughter Andrea, when she was in college, told me that little trick. I would have never believed it. Most people never use their microwave for anything but heating up food, and that's a good thing. But I do like vegetables cooked in a microwave. All right, now you're going to take this and make a stuffing. Then we're going to top it with cheese. Bake it for 20 minutes, and then our dinner will be ready. I first found this recipe in an old Weight Watchers diet book that I had found years and years ago. I don't even know where I found the book. And it was just simply marvelous. And I have used it off and on ever since, but the version I make now isn't so much as of a Weight Watcher one. Now I'm going to move, I've got one more to do. After I got married, I didn't make it so often, maybe once a year, because back in the day, parboiling your zucchini and then doing all this prep work, then baking it off, just dirtied up so many dishes. And back in the day, there were no dishwashers. So, it was a treat to have this. Let me get that piece out. All right. Now what we're going to do is make a dressing. And then we're going to repack the zucchini with it. So I want to take this. These are the insides of it. And I'm going to cut them in very, very small pieces, as small as I can get them, and it still hold together. So we have our zucchini. All right, let's put this in our mixing bowl. I fixed these for my granddaughter Rachel when she was staying with me this summer, and she just loved them. All right, we need a cup of saltine cracker crumbs. We want 1 egg beaten. Then we want salt, pepper, and parsley. Oops. Some of that stuck on the side. Then we want finely chopped onion. All right, we're going to mix all of this together. Boy, if I am just not messy today. Then we are going to add our Parmesan cheese. And if you're trying to make this calorie conscious, use the grated Parmesan and only use a tablespoon or so of it. All right, so now I have got my stuffing made. So all we're going to do, let me get us a little baking pan. Whoops. Okay, there we are. All right, I'm going to spray it. All right, and as we fill these, I am just going to go ahead and put them in the pan. So you are going to take this and pack it tightly. Okay, and lay it carefully in the pan. So we're going to continue doing this with all 4 halves. Now when I go to serve these, I generally just cut this in half or in 1-inch pieces. Not everyone likes them. As I was saying, my granddaughter Rachel came and lived with me this summer, and I swear if she just didn't love these, she would fix them, and when she went home and went away to college, I would talk to her at least once a week until I thought she would be getting tired of me. And she emailed me or texted me one day and said, "Grammy, how do you fix those stuffed zucchini?" So I sent her the recipe, and I think my little girl's going to be a cooker when she grows up. All right, there we are. I can't wait to taste these. All right, then the last thing we're going to do is our shredded cheddar cheese on top, and go lightly with it because you've already got a bunch of cheese in the center. All right. And we are going to put these in the oven. They need to be in it for 20 minutes. You do not have to cover them. Well, very good. This is 18 minutes, so all I have to do after I take out the scallops is add 2 more minutes to it. So let me clean up my mess, guys, and we will check the temperature of our pork. We'll take the foil off on our pie, and we'll let it cool a little bit and see about fixing some whipped cream. I'll be right back. All right, welcome back. We have every dish either in the oven or the refrigerator, almost ready to go. The only thing we're waiting on is for the meat to finish. Well, really for everyone in the oven to finish. And we are going to take off our aluminum foil protector ring. And the reason for this is that it insulates the pie crust, which was already cooked, so that it doesn't get dark brown. If you test it, it comes out 100% clean. 40 minutes at 375 is the perfect time for this. Oh boy, that smells good. Wish you guys were here. This is going to be a marvelous little dessert. So now, while we are waiting for the pork roast to finish, why don't we go visit Dan and his guest in the living room? I will see you in the dining room.
Okay, Becky, well, what have you made for us this evening?
Oh boy, we made a Waldorf salad.
A Waldorf salad.
Yes, from an old recipe that I put in the Glen Ferris Inn cookbook, A Taste of the Inn.
Okay.
And only I added grapes to it because I can, so why not?
Okay, all right.
And then we're doing a top loin pork roast
Okay,
that's been marinated very funnily.
okay.
And then we're doing scalloped potatoes, stuffed zucchini,
Stuffed zucchini.
and a real old-timey dessert.
What
You
is
want to
that?
guess?
Yeah.
I haven't told you what it is.
Oh, okay.
It's
All
a
right.
sweet potato pie.
Oh, sweet potato pie.
Did your
Okay.
mama ever make you a sweet potato pie?
I don't remember that, but I've eaten it before somewhere.
Okay. Jean, have you ever had a sweet potato pie?
I have not.
Greg, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Well, I'm hoping it's good. Susie?
I'm sure it will be.
I
You
had
have?
them, yeah, but it's been a long time, so.
Mhm.
Okay.
You can't find them anywhere.
No, you can't.
They're not in bakeries and they're not in delis, so all you can do is hope that someone has the recipe, or you have the recipe and you make it, so.
Well, let's go ahead and start.
All right, this is
Try
our Waldorf salad. I thought it'd be
You're
a,
starving us to death here with your
I always
toppings.
do.
You gotta slow down
I
here.
thought it'd be a pleasant change of pace from a lettuce-based
Oh,
salad.
yeah, me too. I like these type salads as well.
And of course, it has a few little touches that are specifically mine.
Oh my.
That
That's
tastes very
delicious.
good.
Very good.
That's very good.
Well, thank you. The secret to it is to lightly whip your heavy cream until it starts thickening up. Otherwise, it just runs off of your fruit. And so I whipped it, then added the sugar and the mayonnaise and the lemon juice to it. And I didn't even whip it till it got to a soft peak. But it lays on the fruit now.
Well, it has nuts in it, and apples, and grapes,
And celery.
and celery. I did taste a piece of celery in there as well.
Absolutely delicious.
The dressing is so good.
Now, I have added chunks of chicken to it
Mhm.
and made a Waldorf chicken salad. It's really good. I have a hard time eating something with meat and fruit mixed in together. I really do, but
But this is very good.
Very good.
Well, Becky, tell us what you've made up here for us.
all right. The green is stuffed zucchini.
Stuffed zucchini, okay.
All right, scalloped potatoes.
Scalloped potatoes,
And then this is a top loin pork roast.
okay. Well, that's very good.
And I've got a whole lot of it in there, so anyone who wants seconds is very welcome to it.
Okay, now, these look like au gratin potatoes to me.
No, gratin has got all the cheese on it. Scallops do not.
I think you're backwards on that, but I'm not gonna doubt you. All right, let's dig into this and see how it tastes.
That zucchini's good. My granddaughter Rachel lived here with us during the summer. She was working at the inn as a waitstaff to earn money to go to school on. And I fixed these one night, and no one ate them but me and her and Dan. And I had 2 other kids staying, and she ate every one of them. And then every week after that, she asked for them again. And then she sent me a text asking for the recipe when she was at college.
They're very good.
They're very good.
Very
I like the taste of them. And what all's in this? I can't remember.
Well, I scooped out all the zucchini
Uh-huh.
and left the shell, and then I chopped that up and added an egg, salt, pepper, onion, and saltine crumbs,
Okay.
and mixed it all back together. Oh, and Parmesan cheese, and then packed it in the shells, and then layered cheddar cheese on top.
Okay. Well, that's very good, and I'm gonna try your meat now.
I'm gonna watch you.
Okay. It's very tender.
And I was hoping for tasty.
Well, it's a little bit different taste. I don't know what it is. It just tastes different.
Well, want me to tell you a secret as long as you don't tell anyone?
Okay, I won't tell anybody.
It asks for 3/4 cup of dry red wine.
Okay.
Well, I know you had that bottle of wine that Andrea gave you at Christmas that you hadn't opened.
Right.
So when I went to the store to pick up everything I needed for the dinner, it didn't even occur to me to buy wine. So when I got up this morning to make the marinade to soak the meat in, I pulled the wine out, and it took me 3 tries to open it. I'm really not much of a wine person, and glanced down, and it was blackberry Merlot.
Okay.
Very good.
Very good.
It's different.
Well, that's why it's different. Most people don't cook with blackberry wine.
Okay.
You've just invented a new recipe. Becky.
I did.
Yes.
Becky, you know my sister watches this show down in Atlanta, and she watches it on the computer, and she's learned a lot of tricks of the trade and watching them
Well,
cook.
bless her heart. Tell her I
She
said
has,
thank you.
She has your books, and she loves to watch the show, and so just want to say hello to my sister,
Okay, well, what's her name?
Yvonne.
Hi, Yvonne. Thank you for watching us. We appreciate it. My mother made up this recipe, and we used it for years and years and years at the inn. And one batch of these makes 12 rolls. All right. So whenever I have a cooking show, I just do a batch of 12 rolls. Now I want to, one of these days, make our cornbread, because our cornbread is just delicious. And I had gone to the State Arts and Crafts Fair, and I got a 4-pound bag of their stone ground cornmeal, and I used that with it, and it is the best cornmeal I've ever had.
It's very good.
But I just can't get away from the rolls.
They're
And-
absolutely delicious. My daughter always wants to take some back to Marshall with her.
Well, bless her heart.
She's at Marshall, and we would come to the inn. She'd say, "Mom, see if we could get 2 or 3 of those rolls to take back with me."
Well, I taught my 10-year-old grandson this summer while he was here how to fix them. He was the only one who wanted to learn. They all want to eat them, but he wanted to learn how to make them. And about every other week, he makes a batch of them and takes them to school and takes them to Boy Scouts and to his, is it hockey or soccer that he plays, Danny? Jack?
Soccer.
Soccer. Takes them to his soccer club. So,
That's awesome.
But today, you know, most of our children, they don't cook at home, and they don't cook with their families. They don't sit down and have a meal with their family, and I think it's a tradition that we're losing. And I enjoy eating, and I enjoy being with family and friends and having a meal and talking about our children and our grandchildren and all that. So.
Well, it's a real honor to be here with you guys, and we watch you all the time and watch your show. And I think,
thank you, Greg. I appreciate that.
You'd be surprised how many people that say to me that they watch your show and they really enjoy it, and they learn a lot of cooking tricks, and you're very talented, and you probably don't realize it. Dan may not realize it because he eats it every day. But,
Well, but I taught her everything she knows.
Well,
so, you know, that's.
I haven't heard that, Dan.
The meal was really good, Becky, so far.
Well, thank you, honey.
I enjoyed the pork. It was very tasty. I liked the au gratin potatoes. No,
Scallop
scallop
potatoes.
potatoes and the squash. It was very good.
Well,
And
thank you.
and the rolls are great too.
Do you think that I could freeze whole zucchini?
A whole zucchini? I don't know about that one. I can't imagine that. I know you can slice them and you can freeze
ears
them.
of corn.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've got about 7 bags of sliced zucchini frozen, and we're talking about big bags. Okay.
Well, you got to get them out of the freezer and cook them and feed them to me.
I will.
Okay. Well, let's have our salad or our dessert. Well, Becky, what do we got here for dessert?
Oh, this is a real old recipe, a sweet potato pie.
Sweet potato pie. Okay. Well,
Now, this is country West Virginia at its best.
all right, we're going to try it. I got some whipped cream on the top of it, which I like.
I was
That's
going to
right.
put cinnamon in the whipped cream, but I chickened out. What do you think that tastes like, Susie? Cinnamon in the whipped cream?
It's delicious.
Well, it
Very good.
Thank you.
it's pretty close to being a pumpkin pie. It tastes a lot like pumpkin.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't put as much cinnamon, but I put the same amount of cloves, nutmeg, and allspice, because the pumpkin pie calls for a pinch of each of the 3, and you can't break it down smaller than a pinch. So,
Okay, well, it's very good. Very tasty.
but I lowered the cinnamon some.
Drink while you're eating that Pie, tell us a little more about Montgomery and what's going on down there and what you're trying to accomplish and all that.
Well, we've got a lot of energy going on down there, Dan. We've got a lot of help trying to get some programs together to revitalize the area. We'd like to include Golly Bridge and Smithers and Montgomery to come together and let's try to come up with a plan. And we know we have a future, and as we talked earlier, it'll be different.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they'll have a little different spin on it. But I think it'll be good, and I think we live in the most beautiful part of West Virginia. I tell everyone
I agree with that.
I'm 30 minutes away from the most beautiful city in the state, and I'm 20 minutes away from the best whitewater rafting in the world.
That's true.
And you just absolutely can't get any better place to live. And we have a lot of synergism and energy going on now, Dan, and I believe we're going to pull through this thing, and it's going to be exciting.
I think so too. And I'm real encouraged with the YMCA down there, and that'll bring a lot of people into Montgomery and do a lot of functions and things there. And I'm really encouraged by that, and hope that more and more things will come along, and it'll be great back in Montgomery again soon.
Absolutely.
And not that it isn't great now. I think that it's different, but you know, we all have to change.
Absolutely.
The world changes all the time.
And I tell everyone that Ridge Valley's our rock. They're really helping. Dr. Bellinger's really helping to get things moving in Montgomery, and KBC coming in will be a nice addition. And those kids, we just need to build a village around them and love those kids, and that's what they're looking for.
Well, I think
that's good.
the high school down there has done real well in their basketball this year, and they're winning state tournaments and state recognition. And I hope we get to keep our high school down there and they don't close it, but we don't know that. But we're hoping that that doesn't happen, and that will keep people coming to the valley and doing lots of stuff down there. Well, you've done it again, Becky. You've made another great meal. You've done a great job. You worked very hard, and we appreciate it. And we can't wait for another meal like this again. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Just
Well-
not made with blackberry wine.
Yeah, I could do without blackberry wine. Might drink it, but I don't. But anyway. Well,
Thank you, Dan.
um,
Thank you, Susie. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
For having us.
thank you all for watching Dining with Dan at Glen Ferris, and we appreciate you all tuning in and watching our show. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. See you next time.
Bye.